Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the joining participants to the third day of mediation session being conducted by Nivaran, an initiative of Supreme Court mediators. In last 2 days, we were told about history and jurisprudence of mediation. Yesterday, Dr. Sudhir Kumar Jain spoke about mediation process, difference between mediation, conciliation, litigation, so beautifully. It was like an artist who was drawing a sketch of a beautiful painting to come in existence. We have to complete the painting by giving colors to it today and the days to come ahead. Today's part of painting has to be completed by our honorable and distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Sunil Kumar Agarwal, additional district and sessions judge and judge in charge of Delhi Mediation Center, Tisajari Courts. Mr. Agarwal joined Delhi Judicial Services in 1992. In 2006, he underwent mediation training, and in 2008-2009, he became a trainer to train mediators. Mr. Sunil Agarwal is a well-known name in the field of mediation. Shades of today's color, which he is going to paint, he's going to use while painting the picture, is an overview of conflict, style, management, resolution, and transformation. We are discussing about conflict, style, management, resolution, etc. So what is conflict? Conflict is difference between two or more ideas, wishes, policy, or disagreement. Whenever two individuals opine in different ways, a conflict arises. In a layman's language, if I can say conflict is nothing but a fight either between individuals, two individuals, or among a group of members. Now the question comes, when does it arise? Conflict is a natural phenomenon that can happen every day, everywhere, in everybody's life, anywhere, everywhere, leading to unrest and disharmony. It can be avoided. Conflict can be avoided by avoiding a person, topic, stop talking in their absence about them, or at times by getting aggressive or becoming non-aggressive too. These are some ways which, if we use, we can dissuade conflicts. What are the reasons for conflict? Though there are many factors, I'll say, which possibly arise a conflict among individuals. For example, lack of confidence, coordination, difference in interests, cultural and educational background, religion, states also. There are so many reasons, but I'll say misunderstanding and ego clash are two main reasons for conflict. No conflict can arise of its own. There has to be an event which triggers this kind of conflicts. There are three kinds of stages. If I summarize, I can say that there may be three kinds of stages for a conflict. The initial stage, I can say first stage, where conflict has already begun. Heated arguments, abuses, verbal conversation, disagreement have already begun. And these all are warning alarms to indicate that fight has begun. And this is already on. The second stage, when we realize that this has already begun, and not only begun, we have started speaking about these conflicts and disputes outside. We can discuss, just started discussing with people, with family members, whatever. So this is the second phase, when we say that no, conflict has come out of that. From my individual, I've started speaking outside. And the third stage is resolution phase, I'll say. A conflict leads to nowhere. So the individuals, parties must try to compensate, to compromise to some extent and resolve the conflict, which is the main thing. and this has to be done at the earliest, as soon as possible. The resolution phase explores the various options to resolve the conflict. And that depends upon us, what kind of option we are choosing for that matter. Conflict can be of many types. It can be verbal, it can be religious, emotional, social, personal, organizational, which includes like employer, employees, some companies, disputes and all. And community are some of them. Community disputes are also very common, and that gives rise to conflicts first. Conflicts happens. It's not like it doesn't happen, and it happens in everybody's life. Just as I told earlier, it can happen anywhere, everywhere, in everybody's life, on anybody's life. A very small thing, very small incident can trigger to this conflict. It is inevitable. You can't avoid this. Because of different expectations, thought process, different background, emotional outbursts, it happens with everyone in some way or the other. Now, what to do? If the conflict has come, what to do? Can it be avoided? Can it be resolved? And my answer to this, I'll say yes. It can be avoided, it can be resolved. To manage conflict is not so easy. Rather, it is quite critical and difficult. But conflicts can be avoided if steps are taken at an early stage in time to diffuse anger and facilitate communications. Communications between the parties, between the conflict is a very easy way to resolve. I'll say by taking proper and thoughtful steps in the beginning of conflict itself, not only conflict can be avoided, but also it can be resolved. And it can be done through some skill. I feel that most of the conflict could be resolved in its early stage if people involved in the conflict would have applied some of the skills, as I say, as mediators or trained persons do. They use the skills to avoid and to resolve the conflicts. There are some techniques, some skills to avoid or resolve these kind of conflicts. First is listening. Listening is very important. Listen to understand. A mediator does that. He listens to understand the problem, the conflict. Be a good listener. And the most important thing is listening should be active, not passive. When I say the listening should be active, sorry. When I say the listening should be active, you have to make the parties feel that you are hearing them properly. It should not be that he is speaking to you, he's telling you something and your mind is somewhere else or you are doing something else. So that will turn to be a passive listening. And I say that if you want to resolve something, some conflict, some dispute, you have to be a good listener. You have to listen actively. Second thing is emotional handling, which is not so easy. Even mediators do have problems at times when they are mediating the cases and all, because emotional handling is of the parties is really, they can outburst anytime during the conflict also, and during the process their conflict may increase because of emotional mishandling. So emotional handling is also very important to resolve the conflict. Now, effective communication skills. Patience is also one of the main skill, I'll say. As far as communication skills are concerned, like right kind of questions, right kind of attitude, your body language, your confidence, everything makes a difference. Then third is impartial. Then next point is impartiality. Impartiality, you cannot tell. You have to show with your behavior that you are impartial to the parties. Next is discussion. Discussion is also very important. And next, negotiation. These are some of the skills which has to be used while resolving the conflict. I'm really sorry for that. Now there comes dispute resolution process. Dispute resolution is a term that refers to a number of processes that can be used to resolve a conflict, dispute or claim. Dispute resolution processes are alternative to hearing a court, that is mediation, conciliation, arbitration, litigation, etc. Conflict management is also one of the things which is helpful to resolve the conflict. This is also known as conflict resolution. So it is the practice of being able to identify and handle conflicts sensibly, fairly, and effectively. Some conflicts are a natural part of individual union, agencies, workplaces, etc., etc. This is the need of the day, that there are people who understand conflict and know how to resolve them. The aim of the conflict management should not be to avoid conflict, but it should be to resolve the conflict. Transformation and conflict resolution. This is also one of the main things. Conflict resolution means solving the problem that lead to conflict, while transformation means changing the relationship between the parties to the conflict. Conflict settlement, conflict management, conflict resolution is ending with conflict transformation. And I'll say that in mediation, we are working till conflict resolution and conflict management, where we are not using this transformation and conflict resolution very much in our mediations. Transformation is one aspect where we have to work, according to me, and Mr. Agarwal will say much more about that. But I feel that we are not working much on transformation. This is the field where we have to work and we have to find our ways. And benefits of conflict resolution, everybody knows that it saves time, money, and attitude and everything. Now, sir, it's my great honor to invite Mr. Sunil Agarwalji. Sir, you please come and give us some thought process that we can understand it better. So it's my privilege, sir. I hand over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am Manjula, for wonderfully introducing me as well as today's topic. Manifestly, you have utilized good time out of your busy schedule in preparing your manuscript. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, dear students, respected senior advocates, mediators, mediation trainers, and friends participating on this third day of International Virtual Mediation Summer School 2021 by the mediators of Supreme Court of India under the banner of Nivaran. At this moment, I congratulate Team Nivaran for hosting and organizing this virtual program for the second year in succession for young lawyers, law students, and whosoever may be interested in to have an overview of mediation and its practice, to enable the youngsters to have a desired outlook and spirit to gradually turn into healers of conflicts. My esteemed predecessor speakers have already taken you through the historical perspective of dispute resolution and development of legal systems on day one, and definition and process of mediation, differences between mediation and alternative dispute resolution modes, etc. on day two. I have been assigned the topic of overview of conflicts, resolution management and transformation. Some of you who are already initiated on the subject of mediation may be thinking about scheduling of the topic, overview of
right before I just said we'll get back to you with the actual other script now. Once again, welcome aboard.
Overview of conflicts after unfolding the concept of mediation in the curriculum. Generally, in the 40 hours mediation training program, this topic is taken prior to unfolding the concept of mediation. But here, I think it has been done conscientiously and thoughtfully. Just before opening the specialized skills and techniques of mediation, understanding the nature of conflicts is appropriate at this juncture to manage which mediation process through negotiation is initiated. It is necessary because how we understand conflicts will determine the way we are going to mediate it. Now, how do conflicts arise? Ma'am Manjula has just touched upon the issue. We all know that life comprises of several differences between and amongst people, group of peoples, and maybe states, and we can also say nations. There may be cultural differences, personality differences, differences of opinion, situational differences, and many more. Because conflict is primarily based on perception. Now, what do we mean by perception? We will just touch upon it. What is perception? We can gather that process of getting, selecting, interpreting, and organizing sensory information is called perception. And perceptions differ from people to people. These and therefore the conflicts may arise out of all these backgrounds. These may arise out of the educational background, past experiences, cultural feeling, socio-economic status, the gender, age, race, occupation. These can also be factors for raising a conflict. Unresolved, you see, the unresolved differences result into disagreements, and disagreements may cause problems. The problems may graduate into disputes, and unresolved disputes may cause conflicts, and conflicts may then take the people or the communities to a state of violence and even war. This is called continuum of tension. Unless tapped or unresolved at appropriate stage, this is the route that a problem or the difference of opinion to start with can take. I will again how it escalates. It starts from difference of opinion, turns into disagreements, then turns into problem, dispute, then conflicts, then violence, and maybe ultimate goal may be war. You can understand from here itself that a conflict or the difference or disagreement has to be or can easily be tapped at the earliest possible stage, unless the disease gets worsened. Now, what could be the dimensions of conflict? At the core of any conflict, there lies a sense of threat. What kind of threat? Threat concerning individuals, individual rights maybe, rights of groups, communities or nations. This sense of threat may emerge when any disagreement, annoyance, competition or inequity is caused to human dignity, personal reputation, physical safety, or to the psychological needs of parties, or somebody's professional worth is challenged, social status comes to question, financial security comes to the fore, community concerns, or religious membership, and may even be national pride. This is only a exemplary example list, only for example, not an exhaustive list, only to indicate broad areas from where one may perceive threat. By the time parties get to the negotiating or mediation table, they are threatened both by the opposite side and maybe within themselves. Then they suffer from fear, suspicion, helplessness, frustration, embarrassment, anger, pain, humiliation, distrust, desperation, vengeance, and a similar kind of other host of emotions. Unless and until those emotions are addressed, the resolution seems to be remote. The resolution of such a dispute or such a conflict is possible only and only by addressing all those kinds of emotions. Ma'am, I would like to share PPT at this juncture. Am I allowed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can.
Is it seen? Visible on your screen?
Yes, sir.
As the graphic here shows, the word conflict tends to generate images of anger or fight and other ugly thoughts that leave people bruised and beaten. But we can say for sure that conflict is neither good nor bad. It is not always good, nor always bad. Conflict is a perception, which means that it only exists if it is acknowledged by the parties who are experiencing it. Conflict is caused when two people or groups disagree and the disagreement causes friction. One party feels that the other's point of view will have negative effect on the final outcome. This is just a quote of the famous social thinker John von Goethe. It is easier to perceive error than to find the truth, for the former lies on the surface and is easily seen, while the latter lies in the depth where few are willing to search for it. That means the error need not be pointed out because it is available on the surface of dispute itself. But what were the reasons that brought this error to the fore or to the forefront? Nobody is interested in going so deep. The person who is reflecting such kind of error may have a very truthful account. Only he will be able to tell the truth only if somebody is prepared to listen. Ma'am Manjula has touched upon this already. Conflict is normal, natural, inevitable, and it is always present in human life. I would say that conflict doesn't require two persons to occur. Even within ourselves, even within one's human body, there are many conflicts. I have to go somewhere. I don't own any vehicle. Then there may be a thought in the mind that should I take metro or should I go by bus? Momentarily there is a conflict unless and until one thing is decided that I will go by metro. I like sweet and sour things equally, sweets and namkeens, and both are placed before me. For a moment, there is a thought in mind which one to take first, whether sweet or namkeen. But for that, no outsider or no third person, or we can say no mediator, is called upon, because these thoughts come to our mind, come to our brain, come to shake us time and again, almost daily, a number of times, and get resolved automatically, because our system is so built over a period of time that we overcome these small conflicts naturally. Therefore, it is a natural process, and it is inevitable. We can't avoid it, and it is a normal feature of human life. I will say conflict results in growth of thought process, because unless and until there are 2 points of view, there can't be discussions. There will not be any discussion. And once something is discussed upon, a better and suiting the time or suiting the particular requirement, that idea or that result or can be found out. Conflict is disagreement, or it can be called struggle between two ideas, contest between two opinions, resulting from perceived threat to the opposing or rival needs, interests, or concerns of the parties. The disagreement may be of individuals, or maybe of group of people, or at the community level. The disagreement or difference of opinion or the problem may occur even where there is difference in position of two people who are on two different sides, where the you can say the manager and the worker, the general manager and the worker, if the setting of two sides is like this, the level of position of two parties is different, then the conflict nevertheless can occur. People respond to perceived threat rather than true threats. People get apprehensive when they perceive that somebody is coming from the other side to attack their needs or goals or concerns or interests. So they respond immediately. They try to get themselves a protective shield and take a counter posture. When does conflict occur? Conflict occurs when individuals or groups are not obtaining what they want or need and seeking their own self-interest. When their desires, their essential interests are not met. Conflict can be minimized, diverted, and it can be resolved. You can see that in court matters, several issues are framed. There may be several issues framed between the parties in the pending litigation. We can understand this better that not all the issues got resolved, but some of those are worked upon and those are successfully settled by the parties. In the like manner, conflict can be resolved partially or it may be diverted so that its strength or intensity may get reduced. Conflict is neither good nor bad, as I have already said. If dealt with in a healthy way, a satisfying solution is possible. What will be the result of a satisfying solution? How would the parties behave after finding a satisfying solution? Obviously, they will be more focused on the task which they are going to perform. They will be performing that task with high energy because their energy is not getting diluted by the negativity of conflict. There will be, if it is a group activity, there will be cohesiveness in the group and all will be performing their assigned job without any resistance. There will be better discussions on the issues or the problems that may crop up in future. And we can easily say that the productivity will be better. Simultaneously, the conflict has its negative side. It may not only hurt the feelings of parties and take an emotional toll on both sides and fracture the relationship maybe permanently, but also affects the productivity. Whatever holds good for a satisfied solution, the other way around holds good for a situation where no solution could be found. That means the parties or the persons constituting the group lose focus from their goals. Their outcome or the judgment that gets distorted. Obviously, there is lack of cooperation, lack of motivation amongst the group, and they do not find themselves to be focused to achieve a common goal. Now, what are the sources or causes of conflicts? In this slide itself, I have mentioned the strategies also, which will help in addressing those causes. The causes may be lack of information. The person may nurse some grievances against the other side, but doesn't have the full information, doesn't have the full facts before him. Or he may be having misinformation. Some of the facts supplied to him by some outsider or maybe by the other side is wrong. And the provided data may be capable of different interpretations. This may also cause some wedge between the parties. Now, how to address all these causes? By agreeing on the process to collect data, there may be a standardized process from which or a source from where the data or the essential information can be collected. Both parties may agree if there is a conflict resolution mechanism initiated between them. They can agree on what data may be treated as important or relevant. So then all these causes may get reduced or eliminated. The other cause may be which hit the interests and expectations of the parties, interests, their goals and needs. The strategies to overcome these, dear participants, we will just be touching upon the strategies, because the techniques within which the mediation operates will be unfolded to you by when tomorrow and day after, and maybe on future days to come, when the specialized skills and techniques of mediation, say communication skills and negotiations, will be open to you. Whenever the goals and needs of parties or groups of persons are hit or are threatened, the strategy to overcome it should be that the focus of parties be taken to their interests, their basic interests, and not to their positions. The positions are just perceptions, and basic interests are hard needs. Unless and until the parties' basic needs or basic interests are going to be met out of the probable solution or resolution, they will not be resolving the matter. So the parties, although they are standing on positions that they desire, positions are desires. Positions are just high positions which they acquire, but the real interests, their real interests are met somewhere at lower platform than where they stand with their positions. And the other strategy to overcome the hit to interests and expectations is to expand the options. Expand the options means create some kind of solutions, innovate solutions. The other cause of conflicts may be relationships, due to poor communication, maybe due to repetitive negative behavior, misperceptions, or you can say stereotypes. Even distrust many a times plays such a foiling role. The parties may be running through a history of conflicts. How can all these relationshipal issues be addressed to overcome the conflicts? One is to establish the ground rules. How can the ground rules, and who will establish the ground rules? If the parties are meeting themselves, or if the third person is helping them. The third person means in our situation we can only speak of mediation and mediator. The mediator will establish the ground rules. It is one of the facilitative roles of mediator that he will provide equal playing platform to both the sides by establishing ground rules within which both sides, or if there are more than two sides, all are to work and all have to follow and observe. Clarify perceptions. The perceptions or positions need to be discussed with the parties so as to bring them to their core interest, bring them down to their core interest. Improve communication with the assistance, or you can say facilitation, of the third person or mediator. The parties are communication between the parties are expected to improve, and that will be without any taint, without any background. So therefore, both the parties are expected to fairly share the information or communicate with the mediator, and who will pass on the necessary information to the other side. The other strategy is to agree on process and procedure. The parties have to agree on the process, how to go about it, how to handle this conflict, how to discuss the matter, and what will be the procedure. The procedure may involve the where to meet, between which time to meet, who will bear the expenses, all these things, and other administrative issues, and who will provide the secretarial services, etc. Keep your words. The parties if they are interested in overcoming the conflicts, have to agree to keep their words, because only then the element of distrust will be eliminated. They have to think for future and learn from past. Where there is history of conflicts, one can understand that it will take longer time than the usual or normal time to address all the issues. But the parties have to be told that they will have to think for future and on learning from past, because they have gone through history of conflicts and now it is time to move on. There may be structural conflicts coming from resources, power, or time constraints. To meet it, the strategies are to allocate ownership and control. The ownership of dispute or the ownership of offer given by one party to be conveyed to the other side has to be taken not by the party itself but through somebody else, and in this setting it can be taken through the mediator. Other is establish fair and mutually acceptable decision making process. The parties need to agree to a fair process where they can seamlessly share information with the third person in confidence, and all these time constraints and power issues may be overcome. There may be issues relating to value system, like different criteria for evaluating ideas. The ideas being discussed or out of which the differences or disagreement has cropped up may be based on different criteria the parties have adopted, or they may be coming from different ideologies, religion, and culture. We have to then understand the mediator has to play a meaningful role in such kind of situation and search for superordinary goals, and he has to understand their ideology. May not go deep into their ideologies, but has to understand their principles so that both are satisfied at the end. Allow parties to agree and to disagree. Parties have to be prepared that we are striving for coming to some kind of solution, but at the end of tunnel we may not find it ultimately. Then we can peacefully part ways and take whatever course is possible before the law enforcing authority. Build common loyalty. The party, the third person or mediator has to build common loyalty between the warring sides so that they can discuss all kinds of issues with full confidence and in a fair manner. And obviously, they themselves should take upon themselves that they really intend to find some kind of solution. Now, these are the sources or causes of conflicts in the pie chart that we have already discussed. What are the conflict indicators? If two sides are standing before you, how will you find out that they are actually in conflict or they represent one side only? From their body language, they will behave like this. That from there will be many signals from their body or visual expressions that they will indicate to a mediator that they are at disagreements or they are not on same page. They will also reflect disagreement. Maybe the two sides will be standing on opposite to each other because they will not even like to stand on one side. This will also be a good indicator. There will be poor communication between them. The conflicting parties do not open up themselves and quite easily. They lack communication, lack of openness because there is no communication, therefore they do not open up. Lack of respect for one another. They don't respect the existence of other because of conflict. They are there may be emotionally charged issues also. Lack of clear goals. Sometimes the parties may not even reflect what goals they need to achieve or what goals they intend to achieve. And sometimes it may be dissatisfaction with management style. What are the core ingredients of conflict? We have all seen these are needs, perceptions, power, values, and emotions that we have already gone through. Now, from experience, there have been many styles of conflict in which people behave while they are called upon to address their conflicts. What are those styles? It is just a chart giving a idea about conflict vis-a-vis dispute. In a conflict, there are contradictions, there are variance, opposition to the claim of other party, clash of interest, and obviously disagreement. Whereas in a dispute, parties argue, parties fight, parties quarrel, they contest, they protest, and they debate endlessly without coming to a conclusion. See, we will now discuss the conflict styles. There are 5 kinds of conflict styles. We will take them up one by one. Avoidance is the first kind of style. See the graphic. What does it indicate? The parties are in conflict with each other, but when called upon to discuss their point of view about those conflicts, they said that they just turn their back towards him, saying that there is no conflict. What kind of conflict? I don't have any conflict. Avoidance. And generally, this is the first style that people adopt. They say conflict. What kind of conflict? They just ignore its existence. They think that just by ignoring it, it will get washed off. This is a negative perception. They think that perhaps if we don't bring it up, it will blow over. But you see, when a third person is involved, and 2 mature persons or 2 educated persons are telling their conflict or their matter to him, do you think that it will just blow over by avoiding it or by giving it an ignore? But it may be appropriate where the issues are too trivial to be discussed or where real decision making is necessary. When the issues are so small, those can be given up. But it will be inappropriate where negative feelings are likely to linger. Unless and until emotional issues are touched upon, addressed fully, the parties will not resolve their dispute. The next style will be accommodation. Accommodation is to accommodate others' point of view fully. Whatever you want is okay with me. Smoothing and opposite of competing. This is exactly opposite to competing. People yield their needs to those of others. People suppress their own needs and give prominence to the needs of other side. It is appropriate when issue is not important, but inappropriate when somebody who is accommodating the other side is likely to resent his decision very soon. The next style will be competition. Competition, as the name itself suggests, its motto is my way or highway. Either it should be in the manner suggested by me or to my satisfaction entirely, or you may be on the highway and find way for yourself. Once, in this case, once somebody who is having this kind of attitude, he advocates only his needs and wants to trample upon the needs of other side. He has no regard for future relationship, and maybe you can say that sometimes he may be insulting or humiliating to the other side. In a way, he exercises coercive power while competing. But competition may be appropriate where an emergency looms others, where there is an emergency. But it will be inappropriate when cooperation from other side is important. Compromise ultimately is also a settlement where the parties agree to split differences. People agree to gain and give with their reduced expectations and agree to have something for everyone. It is the result of compromise is satisfactory, but sometimes it may not be of final satisfaction. It is appropriate when some solution is better than stalemate, and cooperation is important, but time and resources are limited. Where there is limited time, then if the parties are able to reach some kind of settlement at the first moment and they take it, that will be compromise. It will be inappropriate when creative solutions are possible. If there is a possibility of finding innovative solutions, then compromise in that set of facts may not be satisfying. The last style of conflict is collaboration. The motto of this style is how can we solve this problem? How can we? You see, the use of word we. We means both sides are on one side to find a solution to the problem. And when they pool their resources, when they work in cohesion with each other, we can understand that finding of solution cannot be delayed. It involves pooling of individuals' needs and goals towards a common goal. It is a win-win problem solving technique, needs assertive communication and cooperation. Collaboration is a win-win situation, and it is always appropriate, always appropriate. When issues and relations are both significant, cooperation from others and reasonable hope of addressing all concerns is there, then one should collaborate. Collaboration means not only the issues which have been taken either to the court or to a platform, but all the ancillary issues are also taken into account, and a fully satisfactory, innovative, creative solution is reached by the parties. This is a Thomas Kilmann chart which shows where all these 5 styles are placed. If we the perpendicular or red arrow mark is showing the concern for self, and the yellow arrow mark is showing the concern for others, then avoiding, obviously it is not, nobody is making an effort. It will be the closest to the center. Accommodating, because one is not taking care of his own interest, say his self-interest, and is accommodating the other side only, it will be on the right side. Compromise somewhere in the middle. Competing, because ultimately one may not find any solution. So here only the self-interest is prominent, therefore, and least concern for the other side. It is competition, and collaboration obviously is the best graphical position at the extreme right and top. Conflict is like a volcano. Unless addressed timely and in a satisfactory manner, it will erupt, as I have already said, continuum of tension, starting from difference of opinion, then disagreement, problem, dispute, conflict, violence, and war. Conflict resolution. What is conflict resolution? Conflict resolution, ma'am has already touched upon. Conflict resolution is a process by which 2 or more parties reach peaceful resolution of a dispute or disagreement. Conflict management, these are used as synonyms almost. One can only say that conflict management is a process of limiting the negative aspects of conflict while increasing the positive aspects. It is aimed at enhancing the learning and group outcomes, including effectiveness or performance in an organizational setting. Now, what are conflict resolution techniques? These are cooperation. Both the parties need to cooperate with each other to find a resolution of their disagreement or conflict or dispute. Cooperation, as the names will suggest, will rule out that resolution cannot be imposed on someone. It cannot be say of one of the parties only. Both the parties have to interact, have to deliberate, and come to a mutual solution. Mutual resolution through cooperative efforts by the parties. The parties have to mutually cooperate with each other to find solution. And the other is, it has to be a two-way street. Again, one party cannot impose own proposals to resolve dispute. Parties have to adopt measure of mutual cooperation. The third will be belief or believe. Parties should be inclined and should believe in the process of conflict resolution. Parties must believe in their capability of resolving the conflict. As we say that if somebody is going to a doctor to have a medicine, but he doesn't believe in that doctor, has no confidence in that doctor, don't you think that the medicines prescribed by that practitioner will not be that effective? In the same manner, unless and until one has a firm belief that if we are working and cooperating with each other, we will be able to find some kind of solution. Trust the resolution. Both parties should undertake to abide by the terms of agreement. And agreement may not be sustainable if there is a lack of trust. If there is lack of trust, there will not be any agreement. In the graphic, you can see that the person who has been thrown up is not trying to turn himself so that he can save himself, because he has trust in the people standing beneath him that they will catch him. What are the points to remember? The points to remember are that a conflict is more than a mere disagreement. Participants tend to respond on the basis of their perception of situation rather than an objective review of it. Conflicts contain substantive, procedural, and psychological dimensions to be negotiated. Conflicts are normal experiences within work environment. Creative problem-solving strategies are essential. The graphic shows the yes to democracy, no to conflicts. These are just for humor. Now, conflict transformation. What do we mean by conflict transformation? Conflict transformation is actually a recently new concept, but its principles are: conflict transformation is a process leading to a transformation of relationship between the parties to conflict. Fundamental social and political changes to correct inequalities and injustices is the basic principle of conflict transformation. It is also called peace building, and this theory has been propagated by John Paul Lederach, who was later on associated with John Galtung also. Conflict transformation pursues the development of change processes which explicitly focus on creating positives from the difficult or negatives. It encourages greater understanding of underlying rational and structural patterns, which building creative solutions that improve relationship. And last will be important, conflict transformation begins with the central goal to build constructive change out of energy created by the conflict. The peace builder in this while applying this theory utilizes the negative energy caused by the conflict into a positive energy and transforms the conflict itself. The process involves response to on the ground of challenges, needs and realities, works towards reducing violence, develop capacities to engage in change process, and the interpersonal, intergroup and social structure level. Seeks to understand the cultural pattern that contributed to conflict and identify and build on cultural resources for handling conflicts. Lederbach and John Galtung are the acknowledged leaders in the field of conflict transformation, which is a relatively new concept and still in the process of creating terminologies. They have developed its both theory as well as practice. Lederbach has greatly influenced the European Union peace programs by utilizing this theory. There are related two quotients relevant for overcoming the conflicts. The first one will be relationship quotient. In these days of fast life, when one has no time even for himself, people have left their relations on back burner. They and generally the young people who are so obsessed with amongst themselves and the technical instruments, the most of which comes to use is the mobiles, that all relations have been left behind. And many a times their delay or difference in investing in the relations causes hurdles, causes unwanted disagreements, or causes differences. An ability, capacity, or skill to perceive, assess, and manage one's relationship has to be there. People don't find time, don't have time, energy, or inclination to invest in relationships. They take people for granted, put relationships on back burner. Relationship is a serious business and requires constant investment. I would request the participants to do one thing, that they should, when they go home or find some time, when they come to close of the day, please spend 10-15 minutes and perceive within themselves which is the last call they had made to their closest relatives. If there are many ones, I would request you to please renew the relationship. Please call upon the relations. They need constant renewals. Similar will be the emotional quotient. While keeping up with the relatives, one has to keep with himself also. Please take note of your emotions or become self-awareness. Manage your emotions. Motivate oneself. Recognize emotion of others. And handle relationship in a mature manner. Mature and regular manner. For litigation, this is the quote from Chief Justice Warren Burger of US Supreme Court. The entire legal profession, lawyers, judges, and law school teachers became so mesmerized with the stimulation of courtroom contest that we tend to forget that we should be the healers of conflicts. For some disputes, trial may be the only means, but for many claims, our system is too costly, too painful, too destructive, too inefficient for a truly civilized people. To rely on the adversarial system as a principal means of resolving conflicting claims is a mistake that needs to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now the time is for question answers. So, sir, there are lots of question answers in chat box, sir, but I'll try to ask as many as I can.
Yeah.
The first question, sir, I'll ask. Somebody is asking from the chat box that when conflicting parties show adamantly, how a mediator breaks logjam and bring them to a dialogue to explore negotiations and to resolve their dispute. And that's a very common problem, sir, when we are doing
That's right.
mediation, we
That's
face
right.
it.
That will take us to the stage of impasse. Because of adamancy, because of bottlenecks, because of stalemate, the maybe emotional issues of parties, or because of the uh, misinformation or distrust, the parties are not sharing information with each other, or are not coming out with some kind of solutions, maybe possible solutions or innovative solutions. Therefore, parties will have to be the emotional issues of parties will have to be worked upon. Those will have to be addressed. You see, in human, we are dealing with humans.
Yes,
Unless
sir.
and until the parties will be able to overcome their uh, the injured dignity, they will not turn to facts. Once they are assured that their emotions will be taken care of, and the mediator through his process of reasoning reflects it quite glaringly during the process, then they will open up to discuss, and gradually one can find the solution. I will not be telling much more than that to this question, because uh, the speaker who will be taking the negotiation chapter and the impasse chapter will be dealing with it in detail.
Thank you, sir. And the other question is, sir, that, but of course, this is not related to the conflicts now, but I'm just asking, sir, so the question is, who can appoint a mediator formally? And can the parties themselves approach and appoint a mediator and get into an understanding?
Uh, this is a good question, actually. The As of now, majority of cases received at the mediation centers or being mediated
Yes, sir.
are referred by the courts. Uh, we can say more than 90% of the cases are court referred.
Hmm.
But since private mediation has also started, and we are also conducting pre-institution mediations because of statutes, so therefore even pre-institution mediations are being taken from CAW cells and in commercial matters. But although Delhi Mediation Center, to which I belong, doesn't
Hmm.
take directly references from the parties, but there are many institutions which take direct references from the parties, which who can be approached for their mediation, for being provided mediation services, maybe for some charges or for prescribed remuneration. There they can go and tell their disputes, or tell their discuss all things which are uh, disturbing them, and find some kind of solution. The mediator will be exercising all procedures which we will be discussing here,
Yes, sir.
and will be discussing with the parties, will be assisting them, will be facilitating them with the all kinds of services at his command, by applying the specialized skills of communication and techniques of negotiation. And, obviously parties will have to cooperate, because after all it is the problem or dispute of parties, and the endeavor of any mediator would be that the solution should be of the parties.
Sir, now like I'm just asking, sir, related to this, does such kind of agreements have to be further vetted by the Honorable Court to become enforceable legally? And what happens, sir, in cases either of the parties non-adhered to the terms agreed? Can they go to another mediation process or approach the Honorable Court?
Uh, you see, this is a gray area.
Yes, sir.
As of now, this is a gray area as to what is to happen to a agreement that has been executed in private setting. But as we all know that the expert trainers of MCPC have already drafted a mediation law, and that has been after vetting by the Honorable Concerned Committee of the Supreme Court of India, that has been sent to the government and may be converted into law anytime. Uh, as of now, it can at best be taken to be a agreement reached in conciliation, because for mediation in a private setting there is no law at present which provides it enforceability. It can at best be treated as, because it will then have to be uh, agreed between the parties at the initial stage itself, that it will be treated as a agreement reached in conciliation for all purposes and for all legal consequences. And once it is so agreed, then it will be taken to be an arbitration award under Section 74 of the Arbitration and Conciliation.
So, sir, does that mean that even if the parties have taken this, they have entered into the agreement and thereafter they are not?
And after all, that will
Yes.
be an agreement between the parties, which can be enforced through the court of law.
Sir,
That setting cannot be denied.
No, that is there, sir. But my question is something else, sir. I'm just asking that suppose they have chosen a private mediator. Thereafter, they entered into the agreement also. Negotiation, mediation has been done. It has come in black and white. So thereafter, what is the procedure? Should they approach the court, sir, for making it legalized, or what should they do?
No court need to be approached. Once it will be taken to be an arbitration award,
yes,
then
sir.
it will become enforceable as a decree after 90 days.
Okay, sir.
Under Section 36 of the Arbitration Conciliation.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'll request now Sneha Yadav to unmute and ask the question. Sneha Yadav ji.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, first of all, thank you so much for a wonderful session that you've taken. Now, my query revolves around the role of lawyer. You talked about conflict. When I see conflict at two levels. Firstly, there is a conflict of interest between the parties themselves. At second level, I do see a conflict of interest between the interest of the party and the lawyer who's representing the party. In the sense that if this case gets settled through mediation, then the lawyer obviously has to do away with a lot of fees that he would have got in the case. So what do you suggest? Should lawyers be welcomed in the mediation proceedings so that they can facilitate it? Or should they be kept totally out of the mediation proceedings so that they cannot interfere it? So what's a better way out?
Sneh, you have taken me to the time 15 years back. There was such a situation when the lawyers were calling ADR to be ADR. We all understand that it is alternative dispute resolution, but the lawyers, when the first mediation center as a pilot project was opened in the year 2005 in T. Cesari Court, which I am heading at present, the lawyers were saying that ADR means alarming drop in revenue because of this fear only, because of these apprehensions only. But we have seen that over a passage of time, now only a few of judicial officers are regularly working as mediators, and the mediation center is entirely and mainly predominantly manned by lawyer mediators, advocate mediators, and they are doing really wonderful job. And I don't know whether you have been to our district mediation centers or not, but if you have seen that as and when we announced that we are going to train some advocates and announce the vacancies, say 50 vacancies, we have to deal with at least 3,000 applications. so much is the craze amongst the lawyers to become mediators. So, you can understand that, yes, there was a feeling at the beginning that there will be some financial issues with the lawyers, but those all have vanished. And so far as the assistance of lawyer during the process of mediation is concerned, my personal experience in conducting around 4,700 mediations so far is that the lawyers are really helpful, because if the parties are coming with their lawyers, they are very confident, they fully participate, they open up very easily because the lawyer is sitting by them, besides them. And the lawyers actually show a route to their parties also, help us in drafting the mediation settlements, and also many a times suggest creative solutions. So in our setting, we have found lawyers to be all helpful. It is really, I would just say that it is really difficult to deal only with the parties where they are not coming up with the lawyers. I don't think the lawyer has any conflict of interest with, apart from these two settings, that with the passage of time and with the growth of mediation, with the awareness spreading in the length and breadth of country, gradually these initial inhibitions of lawyers have all gone away. They now understand that if they find a better solution to their client within short time, there will be more clients to them through mouth publicity, and really there is no loss of revenues to the lawyers. I hope, Sneh, that will be okay.
Sneha ji? Sneha Yadav ji?
Okay, she is mute.
So now one more question. This is from Noha Septia. I will request her to unmute herself and ask the question. This is Noha. Ms. Noha, can I request you to unmute yourself? I think she's not listening to me, sir. Anyway, sir, I'll ask the question. Her question is what are some of the vitiating factors that can affect the process of conflict resolution?
Only the vitiating factors will be that the parties do not intend to cooperate, do not come up with the correct facts or information, and may not be showing interest or respect to the other side. There may be many factors. If, you see, one has to show willingness and the ability that they will be able to find some kind of solution.
Yes.
If it is not getting reflected from one's conduct, one's body language, one's verbal expressions, then obviously all these are negative or vitiating factors to the whole process, and they will not, it is not taking them anywhere.
And sir, next question is, as we talk about the importance of relationships in conflict, if while mediation, during mediation, the mediator feels that that to resolve the conflicts first, the parties need counseling, is there any legal provision to join a counselor to the sessions?
Ma'am, there is no law as such, I have already said. So therefore, there is no legal provision. But there are rules. In Delhi, we have rules, mediation and conciliation rules of 2004. And of course, the guidelines issued by the Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee of Supreme Court of India and the Mediation Monitoring Committee of High Court from time to time. But the question may be right, but as mediators, we are not experts in psychology or maybe a socialist setup.
Yes, sir.
In many cases which are emotionally charged, where the people are emotionally charged or some psychological issues crop up, we do need to have expert psychologists and maybe counselors who have experience of sociological aspects of society, community, families. They will be expert in handling those situations. Many mediation centers already have the services of psychologists at hand and maybe counselors. Like the family courts, all family courts have counselors to help them. In Delhi Mediation Center, we have also been requesting the government to provide us with the services of psychologists and counselors, so that in appropriate cases may be referred to them and their help may be taken.
I'll request Tushar Trivedi ji. Kindly unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So my question pertains around the newly theory of conflict transformation. Sir, as you described it, it means changing the relationship between the parties. So what I wanted to ask is changing the relationship with respect to the perception how the parties see the conflict. Say, imagining a scenario wherein there is a conflict with respect to something, and the parties perceive it as a conflict with respect to their societal stature or their acumen, and we transform the conflict into make the parties believe that the conflict is not with respect to their stature in the society, it's with respect to a common say a miscommunication or a common ignorance on behalf of one parties, or we transform the relationship in such a manner so that we increase the parties' interdependence on each other. This is my question, sir.
Tushar, although conflict transformation is a new subject, it has not been applied so far by us in our setting. Nevertheless, there may have been many cases where the parties may have been transformed actually, even if we didn't know the concept earlier. But the author John Galtung has given two concepts. One is negative peace. Negative peace means absence or reduction of violence. It means one is able to bring about some kind of peace between two warring sides or two aggrieved parties, but and thereby reduce the violence or reducing the burning issues. But many times it cannot be said to be a lasting solution or the final satisfying solution. His other concept is positive peace, which creates the conditions that eliminates the cause of violence, including direct cultural and structural causes. This positive peace, we can say, is actually transformation. The resolution which we generally talk about may sometimes be negative peace. We just find a timely solution and end up the matter, and the parties are happy at that stage. But the lasting solution would be of a transformation when we find for them, or they are able to find for themselves positive peace by getting themselves transformed. And you see, we will have to understand that healing doesn't mean that damage never existed. It only means that the damage no longer controls our lives. So we will have to see or adjust ourselves in this manner.
So, sir, if I may put it that way, does conflict transformation mean identifying the root cause and addressing the grievances from the very, say, the first instance when those arose, or
No,
yes?
because at the first instance, the parties may or may not be before the mediator or the healer, but he will make all his efforts to remove the root itself, root cause of the conflict itself.
Understood. Thank you so much. Thank you for the session. Thank you for my query. Thank you.
There are, sir, so many other questions in the chat box, and so many people have raised their hand, but due to paucity of time, I request all of them to put their questions in chat box. We'll definitely come back to you. We'll try to answer each and every question. And sir, now the time to say thanks to you, sir. Sir?
Ma'am, I would say that
Yes, sir.
the aggrieved or the aggressors,
Yes, sir.
there may be obviously when two parties are on two sides, one will be aggrieved, one will be the aggressor, and both will be blaming each other. But we have experienced that people start to heal the moment they feel heard. Just on having a feeling that somebody in authority, and mediator, we have to understand, is a powerful man, is a powerful person. I'm sorry, is a powerful person and is a man in authority. When the parties feel that they are being heard by somebody and they are being assisted by somebody by providing a level playing platform, they start to heal. I would exhort all the participants to please, as and when time permits, please undertake 40 hours mediation. It is a wonderful exercise, wonderful while taking care of the mediations, and while it is also a personality development program. By removing the negativities from the heart and brain of parties, you see, you will be actually doing a service to the nation, service to the community, society. I would just end by making a quote that some fragrance always clings to the hands of those who give roses. Thank you so much.
Very nice, sir. Sir, now I'll say, sir, your PowerPoint slides were far excellent, sir. And sir, you explained your points so in a view of all of them, sir, and it was very easy to understand. So it was done in a very easier way. Sir, I'll say that your points that you have said about relationship and strategies to deal relationships are very useful for mediators. When we mediators do the mediation and all, that will be really helpful to us, sir, while entering into this resolving conflicts and all, sir. And sir, you said about conflicts vis-a-vis disputes. So that was also very good, sir. I really liked it very much. And I hope and I believe that all the participants really would have enjoyed that. And sir, your one-liner, I'll say, my way or highway, was really, I'll say that was one-liner which will hit everybody and will remain in the minds of everybody, that what is the meaning of that and everything else. Sir. And so now, I say, sir, I tried to put some color in the sketch which was left by Dr. Sudhir Jain yesterday, but you finished it very nicely, sir. It has come up, it has taken a very nice shape, very good shape, sir. And I'm really thankful to you, sir, that you have done it so well. And sir, I will request, sir, and everybody else is also requesting, they are putting it on chat, that if that is possible for you, sir, please share your PPTs. Everybody will
Sure.
be very, sir, that will be very helpful for everybody. And sir, once again, I'm very thankful to you, sir. You have given so much time, and being, in spite of this Sunday today, sir, you have given us so much time, sir, and you have explained everything so nicely, sir. We are really thankful to you, sir. And sir, I'm thankful to everybody else, the participants also who have, after being Sunday, they have spent so much time with us. And I'll just say that the picture is not completed yet. Tomorrow again, there will be one more statue that is called like, I'll say this communication skills needed for a mediator, verbal and non-verbal communication. This is also one of the very important statue, I'll say, and it's going to be filled up with colors by Mrs. Sushila Sarthi, who is a senior advocate and mediator from Bengaluru. She will be here tomorrow with us, and the program will be hosted by Abha Sharma. She is also a Supreme Court advocate and a very good mediator. So I'll request everybody to be there, to be punctual, sharp at 5 o'clock, be here and enjoy tomorrow's colors and painting to be painted by all of them. With this, I thank everybody, all the participants, and especially I thank Rahul, who does so much technical work for us. I'm really thankful to all the Nirvana senior advocates and participants and everybody. I'm really thankful to you. And last but not the least, I'm really thankful for giving me this opportunity to participate, to host this class today, and to assist Sunil Agarwal, sir. So I'm really thankful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Team Nivaran, for
you.
giving me this opportunity. And